Hey, what's up, everybody? The Common Sense Perspective here. I'm your host, CM. Yeah, that's right. C and M. All right, two letters. That's right. And this is where it's at here, just to kind of talk about stuff that's going on and my common sense perspective that pipes in, and all kinds of stuff is going on. Craziness is going on these last few days, and I think a great time to talk about it. Right, so without further ado, let's just talk about it. But before we begin, subscribe to everything I got. All right, I got stuff going on. All right, so I have my talk channel here. I also do crypto on my other channels. I have other channels on crypto. Got my Telegram group where I have an open forum about talk about anything and everything. Nothing's off the table. And so yeah. So without further ado, let's just get to it. All right. So the latest news is this right here. Kamala Harris is talking about, or has made her pick. But before we get to that, all right, let's talk about the recent thing that's happened in the last like 2 to 3 days now, and that is the Kamala crash that's happened, right? So there's all kinds of stuff happening here. All right, Kamala crash that's happened, and throughout this time of the recent presidency of Biden and Harris, right? They've been creating inflation, right? Because they keep printing money, keep printing money, keep printing money, and to no end, right? They just love to spend. Democrats love to spend, right? When there's nothing to spend, but so they just keep printing, and that's what's creating that inflation. So, I mean, it was at the time when she signed off, on $1 trillion of additional spending that's helped create this massive inflation that we're in right now. Even trying to push as much as 4 trillion, which is like ridiculous. Like, you crazy? But Biden shot that down, believe it or not. I guess because common sense says, let's see, we're trying to ask for 1 trillion in spending, but you're trying to push it 4 times that amount to 4 trillion. At least common sense kicked in at the time before Biden's brain went away, and he said, "Nah, we're not doing that." All right, so but yeah, so with this whole Kamala crash thing that's happened, with the markets crashing, right, over $1 trillion wiped, all right, across the board when it comes to stocks, crypto, all kinds of just all this market stuff that's been happening. $1 trillion plus has been wiped out, and and she's the one that signed off on that sort of stuff, right? But yet she'll blame the Republicans. She'll blame Trump for it, right? Because, which is kind of funny because if Trump hasn't been in office these last few years, how can you blame Trump for it, right? So yeah, so that's what it is, the Kamala crash, and this is funny, See, Kamala crash. So that's what is referred to as Kamala crash because she's not really been speaking about anything, when it comes to even when she first got anointed as the nominee, just given to her without really any sort of fair selection process. Well, there's two things that happen, right? The so-called Democrats that want to be democratic hasn't been democratic. They weren't fair about the selection process by putting all their eggs in one basket into Joe Biden during the time of what do you call it? The shit, I don't know what you call it. Whatever the Democratic. Well, it's not even the Democratic convention yet, but where they make their pick, right? And they try to, compete to see who could vie for the spot to run for Democratic nominee. And rather than let it be open to be fair, they said, no, no, no. We're going to have, Biden run this because he's beaten Trump before. He could beat Trump again. No one's going to step in and challenge this. So they all fell in line, right? All the Democrats fell in line. And then when Trump exposed them during the debates, come to find out that, all right, so all the stuff they've been hiding all these years that Biden isn't all there was shown, across millions and millions of television, social media, and expose him, all right, and expose how bad Biden really is in terms of his brain, all right, just not totally being there. And then you could go into this whole conspiracy about a cover up and stuff that everybody knew, right? Especially Democrats knew, especially Kamala Harris would know that this whole time, like the brain is soup, right? That he's just running on what he's being told to say, right? And the rest is history, right? So got exposed, and rather than again open it up to the nomination, there you go, the nomination process, they just decided to, you know what? It's almost like Biden just handed off the presidency to her, right? Because you haven't really seen him since. I mean, yeah, maybe once when he made his pick, saying that he's handing the baton over to Harris. The Russian U.S. deal on trading hostages. That was the last time you seen Biden, and it's been sparse, Biden, ever since he stepped down from the nomination. And then the whole U.S. Russian deal there with the hostage stuff. And then after all that, you don't really see much by everything has been dominated by Kamala Harris headlines, right? And you're looking like months ago, they're getting ready to kick her off, saying she's the worst vice president ever. They wanted to kick her off any sort of campaign, maybe possibly if Biden was to run on the next ticket, maybe possibly replace her on the next ticket, because they all know that if Biden wins, he's not going to make another 4 years. Maybe he might step down and hand it over to the next person behind him, whoever the vice president may be. But they didn't want that to be Harris, right? They wanted it to be more than just Harris. And so, why did you think Gavin Newsom was being like the surrogate, you know, nominee, doing shadow campaigning the whole time, right? Because I think he was truly trying to vie for the spot, right? And if things weren't so bad with Biden, and he was a little bit more together than he is now, that spot could have opened up right behind him, that door to replace, Kamala. But it didn't work out that way. And so, so Biden got cooed, all right? I mean, he got cooed out of there, right? So meaning that, yes, he was forced out. He was so resistant about leaving to the very day that they even said that he wasn't leaving, his own people, until he spoke and said he's stepping down. And you know why? Because the Democratic wheel, all right, in the name of Pelosi and Biden and Obama, all right, with their political hammer, well, gave him an ultimatum and say, hey, you're going to step down, and you'll have a legacy, or we'll crush you and destroy your legacy, right? Simple as that. And so, of course, they had to really crowbar him out of there, but they got him out, right? And then, of course, they're saying all the great things about, oh man, he's one of the greatest presidents ever, and and I mean, even Pelosi said, oh, he should be on Mount Rushmore, bullshit like that, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And now Kamala has it, right? But when you look at what's been happening, right, when it comes to the economy, the markets, everything in the last few years, it's been obvious, right, that we've been in a recession for some time, an unannounced recession, an unofficial recession, but we've been feeling it, right? We've all been feeling it, right? All the stuff they pump up about, the job creations, the the economy is doing well. People are doing this, people are doing that, and it's not. It hasn't been that way. It just hasn't been put out there, when it comes to the exposure of television and social media. It's been bad for a very long time. Why do you think they keep printing money and creating this inflation, right? At some point, it's going to keep inflating until it's going to burst. And it took a couple of years for that to happen, but it burst, right? And so uh, now this could possibly finally officially call this a recession that's coming down, right? Because of the market crashing and all that. And looking at it as of this morning, the markets seem to be somewhat recovering from the last 2 to 3 days of all kinds of stuff that's been happening. But at the same time, while that is happening with the Kamala crash, uh, you know, there's been a lot of the rumor mill spinning. Of course, there's a lot of speculation on who she's going to pick next when it comes to the VP, right? Everybody's waiting to see who she's going to pick for VP, and the pick is finally in, right? Announced this morning. All right, let me go back out of this. So announced this morning. All right, the pick for vice president nominee is Tim Walz. All right, so a lot of speculation was towards Josh Shapiro, who's from Pennsylvania and representative of Pennsylvania. So that's one of the key states that she needs in this election to lock it down. At least this is one of the major battleground states that was really needed, And so I think with the differences in terms of how they view like Israel and Gaza situation, the fracking that they do in Pennsylvania, it's kind of going against the message of Kamala, right? And so in the best case scenario, she should have picked them because those are the moderate factors that she needs to at least gain that support in the moderate area of things. But going with Tim Walz, I don't know much about Tim Walz except he's from Minnesota, and it's like what the headline says here. Is, far left. It's pro BLM, pro riots, all that stuff, and he came around the time when the whole Floyd situation that happened in Minnesota, and that kicked off all the race riots and all that, and the anti-police, defunding police movements, and all that stuff. And he himself said that if he could have done a better job handling that situation, especially all the the riots and stuff that were happening in Minnesota during that time of the Floyd meltdown that was happening because of what occurred, right, with the police and all that. He said he would have wished he'd done a better job at handling that situation. And so I mean, this is it's like what Black Conservative says here, that this is a pretty progressive, I guess you say, campaign that's going to be happening here, because you got Walz and you have Harris together is very progressive, all right, in terms of what they got in terms of beliefs, the type of policies they're going to be pushing. I mean, right now, if they were to win, oh man, what we've been experiencing, you ain't seen nothing yet. All right, the borders will be wide open because she doesn't believe in borders. Defund the police is going to be worse, right? Because of those two. Of crime will be rampant across America because it's going to be an open book now in terms of allowing Democrats pretty much to do as they please on how they want to handle law enforcement, and being how they are, soft on crime, soft on everything, right? No cash bail, all that stuff, catch and release, at the border. We'll just give all border entries amnesty. Come on in. We'll get you jobs. We'll get you credit debit cards. We'll get you amnesty. We'll get you everything that you need, right? And man, it's gonna be crazy. You think we've seen everything now? No, this is a crazy ticket right here, and this ticket is gonna be too far progressive. I mean, only the dummies and the blues that don't vote for Trump because he's the red man that's gonna be king and all that because he's so bad. But did you guys realize who these people are? Do you guys realize how bad it is with these people? All right. I've seen the progressiveness of her in San Francisco because I live in California. I've seen the progressiveness of her policies, being that she was a senator in California. And you can't push what you're pushing in California when they have a stacked majority in California anyways across the United States. You're going to get a lot of resistance. All right. People in general don't like the Green Deal policies and all that. People don't like that shit. You're telling us to force us to drive electric cars when we don't have an infrastructure. You're forcing us out of gasoline in terms of car gas, natural gas, and forcing us to all go, furthermore onto the grid. All right, because look at it, they're trying to push this idea in California of taking you off of natural gas and gasoline, right, by the end of the decade to go all electric. Even if you want to get rid of electric, gas stoves and all that, anything that has to do with gas, they want to get rid of all that. But yet we're importing gasoline from parts of the world, and we're paying more for gas as it is. We have an infrastructure that doesn't support electricity because we've been subjected to brownouts and blackouts in the past, and yet there's been no improvement on the infrastructure ever since. And how would that be any better now when you're putting more onto the grid when it comes to electric cars and everything going electric? And solar can only go so far because the sun's only up they're not up 24 hours. And what if you have cloudy days and all that stuff? So, too progressive, all right? Flip-flopping on issues. We could actually frack in California if they allow it. We can actually frack because there's actually plentiful of oil in California. There's even mining oil fields, mini oil fields in Bakersfield, California, which is kind of southern California area there. If you guys don't know where Bakersfield is, but they've done limited usage of it. Probably cut way, either not use it or really severely cut the use of it. And the list can go on and on and on, right? We don't want to be forced into electric cars because, one, they're expensive. All right, they are expensive. They're not cheap cars. They do have a shelf life, right? Just like everything else in cars. But the shelf life is as good as the battery can last, right? If the battery is done, you know how much it costs to replace the battery? It costs as much as the car to replace the battery, right? And so that really tells you something, that it costs almost as much as the car to replace the battery. So it's not like replacing an engine, right? Engine, let's just say you replace an engine, it costs, I'm just ballparking this, right? A couple $1,000s, right? Now you're talking about a battery replacement in a Tesla or in a Kia, for example, and you're talking upwards of $50,000, believe it or not. And it's like, it was like, am I supposed to buy another car? right? So when you see all that, it's like, man, how can that be any good? All right, solar sucks because if you don't pay, if you're leasing the solar, you're gonna be paying that along with PG&E, and so you're making a double payment, um, just to so-called be green, right? The only way you could benefit from solar is if you have it paid off, but that's not cheap either, right? It's upwards of $30,000 and up to pay off your solar stuff, right? Then maybe you could benefit off of that, right? But remember, they have a shelf life too, right? Once it hits that 30-year mark, that's when the life of the solar panels tend to go away. And then what do? You got to replace them, and what happens to them? They get discarded in the dump, and supposedly, the panels and all that are more toxic when you dispose of them because of the chemicals and all that stuff that are built into it. Um, you know, that is now part of the. I don't even think you recycle them. I think they're just straight up dumped. All right. And so you got the train to go to nowhere. You have homeless problems. And this is all because of her progressiveness and the other goons in California that follows the lines of her. And then what do you have to show for, right? A rundown California with crime problems, exodus of people and businesses, and it's not a business friendly environment because you got to pay for all these different regulations and policies that really is unrealistic to really put on any business. And when you have all that, all right, how why would anybody want to stay in California, right? Even though I'm still here, but it's just a recipe for disaster, right? That's why you see more and more businesses close, people leaving California. Lots of problems are happening in California, right? And Gavin Newsom's either playing naive, playing stupid, or he doesn't care, right? Because he thinks what he's doing is, you know, butterflies and flowers and horses, and it's graceful, it's lovely, right? But it's not, because I mean, when you look at California, it's shot, it's run down, it's bad, and so if you want that progressiveness, this is what you're getting right here. If you want California to be across America, across the board, this is what you're going to get right here if you vote for that. This right here, this ticket. Because part of it is, even though she's flip flopping on some of the key things, right? I think just to kind of sway people to believe in her, even though she's not like that, like the fracking stuff and flip flopping on border and flip flopping on defunding police and all that stuff. That's against her agenda because she was against that agenda all these years, and all of a sudden, when campaign season comes, she flips. Come on, all right? Don't believe in the hype that sometimes people can change their minds and get out of here, man. That's just straight garbage. All right, and on top of all that, it's just still an extension of Biden, right? Because what you already have with Biden's policies, decisions, everything that's been in place these last 4 years, all right, it's just going to be a continuum of that, and then whatever else she injects into it or makes it even far more progressive in what Biden's already laid out. So, do you really want more of that? All right. The Kamala crash that just happened, trillions of dollars wiped out, right? Think about that for a moment. You would think, being that the presumptive nominee, essentially Biden's kind of handed her the keys already. Speak out about something. Bring out some reassurance, right? Because that's what a true leader would do, right? You step out there and show some true leadership. Show, hey, you know what? We know, the market's crashing. This is what we're working on. we're going to try to do what we can to, turn this thing around. And, it takes, us, everybody, it takes our partnerships with other countries, blah, 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 going on with shit like that. At least give some reassurance, but no, silence, right? Instead, um, through others, she speaks about, who she picks and all that stuff, but yet he hasn't really spoken about anything, in anything whatsoever. So there's gonna be a lot of explaining to do, and yeah, it's just gonna be. There's a lot stacked up on her at the same time, so you know, all we got to do is just kind of hang in there and try to see what comes next from all this facade, the charade that's happening here, and craziness. Because this is a dangerous ticket, all right here. We've already experienced firsthand for the last 4 years what it's been like under this sort of inflation and you know the everything's up, right? Everything that we live on is up. Insurance, gas, food, everything. All right. Shit. Got a Jack in a Box meal yesterday. Jack in a Box meal yesterday. I think there was like a number 6, number 7 burger meal with fries. You know what that is for a combo? Burger meal and fries, drink, right? It's $13.99. $13.99. All right. I mean, shit. It would never be over. It would never be over $9.99 as recently as a couple years ago. Now it's $13.99. All right. And so that's inflation for you. Gas prices hover around what $5 here in California. I know it's different, a lot cheaper in other states, all other states literally. But yeah, from what I've been seeing recently, like $5 a gallon. That's pretty high. We've been paying more home insurance, car insurance this year, as I know we've been paying more because the bills are more. It takes more out of your check. The check hasn't changed. All right. So we've experienced it, and you think it's going to be better with these guys? So that's something you got to really think about. All right, something to truly think about before you decide to vote for her because she's quote unquote black, even though she's not black. Don't vote for her because, oh, blue is better than the red man. We don't like, or orange man, whatever you want to call him. Because he's dangerous. He's dangerous. He's far too, whatever, far too conservative. Oh man, he's not for the people. But yet, vote for blue no matter who is what you guys are doing, and we've seen that. We've experienced that, and we've seen destruction. All right. Really, do you guys want more of that? Look at New York. Look at Chicago. Look at California. All right. Look at Seattle. Look at Denver. Look at any other sort of places that have blue progressiveness, liberal agendas. Oregon, right? Shit, New Mexico used to be a red state, or I'm sorry, Arizona used to be a red state, but it's become more of like a purple blue. But look at all these problems they're having, right? At least Texas is addressing it, putting their foot down, and it's shown because when Texas put their foot down, look what happened. Things improved drastically. So in California, there's none of that happening because Gavin Newsom is an extension of this right here. These guys, and Gavin Newsom, if he's not the nominee because they want to replace Kamala, he's going to run for 2028. And if you guys want that to be your guy and you've seen the destruction of California, go ahead and vote for that. All right, go ahead and vote for that. All right, but I just wanted to talk about that. All right, the Kamala crash, the VP pick, which really puts her in a more progressive campaign now because he fits that narrative, right? Um, yeah, exactly what it says. Radical, far left, right? Proven to not care about your law enforcement, don't care about riots, right? And it's funny because Democrats have always said they've had, peaceful riots. They do not riots, peaceful protest. But yet, all those riots are Democratic, right? Think about it. BLM, Save Gaza, Palestinian riots. Do you think those protests and riots? Do you think that's a riot? Or I'm sorry, I keep saying riot, but do you think those are demonstrations of peace? No. All right. Those demonstrations are definitely very, very um, unpeaceful. They are chaotic. They cause a lot of trouble when they do shit like blocking streets, trashing everywhere, taking over buildings, um, doing all kinds of stuff, right? Destruction of businesses. Like, what does that really do, though, when you go smash windows and all that stuff to demonstrate, but you allow it to happen? Like, what does that really do, right? Oh, it just proves that you could break things and do things in a non-peaceful way, right? And you gotta love the ones that used to happen in Oakland, where you have like these BLM type riots that are happening, and they're saying, "Oh, we're trying to do a peaceful demonstration," but you'll have people that kind of come into it and hide in the guise of BLM, and they'll go around smashing windows, like they're using them to do all these things to loot businesses and all that stuff. And to me, all across the board, you just got to squash all that, because demonstrations are never peaceful coming from Democrats. And when you look at it, what demonstration do you really see with the red and being right, being conservative, right? You don't really see demonstrations. Think about that. When's the last time you actually saw a demonstration? You know what I'm saying? And so I've come to a realization, all these years, and maybe I'll talk about that in another episode here. But yeah, I've come to a realization all these years about how things are and how they try to make it out to be and how it truly is, and yeah, it's just how these things can change a person. All right, but if you think she changed because of a campaign thing, because all of a sudden she's been doing all these things for all these years, and then when campaign season comes, she's like, "Oh, I, you know, flipping against fracking, and I'm flipping on all these different, ideas that are the sticky points of the presidency." Don't think for 1 minute that she's gonna really stick to what she says she's flipped on now, because she's not like that. It's dangerous, all right. But yeah, these are dangerous times. We'll see what happens. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you. The Kamala crash. Will we recover? Looks like we're slowly recovering, but I want the market to crash more, and because we need a reset is what we need, and that's what we need, a reset and a wake up call. So we have the Kamala crash, the VP pick. I think in theory Donald Trump should have it in the bag, but you never know, all right? Because it's craziness, and all I got to say is, don't be surprised if there are more surprises, because that's just what it is, all right? When it comes to all this stuff, this stuff is crazy, it's corrupt, and at the same time, it sucks. But yeah, so sharing you guys with my thoughts. Comment down below, subscribe to everything I got. So I want to say thank you. I'll see you next one.